I didn't come up with an intro, but I guess we'll just fire it up like this. So welcome to the first recorded Zoom meeting of Meet the Pro with the infamous John Graham, the short game wizard. Obviously Al and Scott here from Go Golf US, and welcome, John. We're excited to have you.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for giving me a chance.
Yeah. So let's. Scott knows a lot about you. Obviously, you guys have a pretty long past, but I don't know a whole lot about you. Whoever may be reading, listening, watching this going forward doesn't as well. So give us a brief synopsis of your career in golf and where it started, where you are today, and take us back to when you got into it.
Yeah, sure. So it's my intro to the golf business is actually quite a good story. I was a bowler as a kid, and in the summertime, a lot of the bowling alleys shut down, and I was looking for something to do. And a friend of mine had a job at Webster Golf Club. His name was Ron Bogert. And so now that sounds like something that I might enjoy doing. So I went up to the pro at that time, a guy named Bob Mikowski. I said, I'm interested in working at the golf course. And he goes, yeah, okay, well, here's what I want you to do. Show up tomorrow morning at 4:30, and you're going to help me gas the carts for the west side. Oh, okay, that's fine. So I go home that night, and I get up the next morning, and I show up at 4:30 in the maintenance shed, and I go, yeah, I'm here. And he's like, who are you? It's like, I'm the guy that was here for a job interview. You told me to come in at 4:30 to gas the carts. He's like, man, nobody ever shows up when I tell him that. It's like, okay, well, since you're here, here's how we get going. So I got started right at Webster Golf Club. I was a cart guy for a while, and then I moved up to the range, and then I went into the pro shop. And then around that time is when I kind of decided I wanted to try playing golf more seriously and get in the golf business. And I worked down in Florida for a little while as a cart guy. My first official assistant pro job was at Midvale Country Club with Paul Sanders as the head pro. It was me and Mike Keel and Brad Kelly. Some people might recognize those names from the local area. Yeah. And I worked there for a while, and that's kind of when I got into teaching pretty heavily in New York. There was also a couple of years that I lived in Kentucky and worked at a place called Gibson Bay. But my first real kind of like teaching gig was at Midvale. Got introduced to a girl named Tessa Teachman, which some of the local people surely would know. Yep. And that kind of started me down the teaching road of things. A couple of years in the Midvale, Paul Sanders took another position, and they were hiring for a new pro at Midvale. And at that time, me and Mike Keel were both assistants. Mike Keel ended up getting the head pro job. But the big benefit for me was at that time, Mike Keel was the head coach at MCC Golf. And since he got the head pro job at Midvale, they needed a new coach at MCC, and I took over for Mike doing that job. So that was starting 2002, I think, something like that. Yeah. Worked at MCC until 2010. Really, really enjoyed it. Was teaching at Webster at that time full time while I was doing the coaching. One thing led to another. I got involved with a company called AimPoint Golf, which was a green reading system. From there, I started traveling all over the world teaching these classes, and that's how I started to meet some players on tour. And now I'm just a full-time putting coach on the tour.
I remember that first putting experience on the West putting green.
I was actually going to ask, when did you meet Scott for the first time?
Well, I think officially it was at Pro Junior that we.
Oh my God, the Pro Junior. I forgot about that.
You guys played together?
We didn't play together, but I think we rode down together. It was me and.
No, we played together. It was me, you. It was me, you, Dom, and
Debbie, right?
Greg Mers.
Oh, Greg Mers. Oh, jeez. Yeah,
that was our force. I forgot about that. Oh my God, yeah, and Debbie had Tessa and two other girls on her team.
Yeah, so that had to be. I mean, Dom at that time was young enough where his feet couldn't reach the bottom of the seat. Like he was sitting in the back seat, his feet couldn't hit the floor.
I think I was 16 or 17, maybe. So maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Wow,
that's wild. I forgot about that one.
And then we reconnected after he came back from Virginia, or one of the
Clemson.
clubs you were at, Clemson, yeah.
Yeah.
And when he got back to Webster Golf Club, and then I was there teaching.
Nice.
And when he says teaching, he was teaching 10 hours a day in the beating down sun every day.
Yeah, in the beginning, I was teaching a lot.
A lot.
I enjoyed it a lot.
So you got into AimPoint. AimPoint is the three finger thing. Is that
that's what it is now? Yeah, it wasn't like that when I got involved.
Okay.
It was much more math and a lot more detail. And then
I still have that first book.
You still have the first chart, yeah.
Oh my God, AimPoint when it started, that was involved.
That was very involved. Yes, you had to gather a bunch of variables. You had to do some serious math, but it's simplified significantly down to the finger thing that you've seen called AimPoint Express.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. So then you also briefly just breezed into now, and then I began working with tour pros. So, let's I guess get into that. So,
sure.
What was the introduction, or who was the first guy that you started working with?
Yeah. So there's another coach people may have heard of. This guy named Chris Como, who I've known for a very, very long time. He was a friend of mine before both of us started working on tour. And he had gotten an opportunity to work with another coach called Grant Waite to help Aaron Baddeley. So this was 2012 or something like that. And right around that same time, Trevor Immelman, who won the Masters in '98 or something like that, contacted me through Twitter saying that he saw a video of mine on YouTube and said, would you mind if I sent you a video of something? Could you take a look at it? Out of the blue. I've never met the guy in my life. He sends me a tweet. And so me and Trevor started talking for a while. And then I knew Trevor and Aaron were going to be at this tournament in Charlotte called the Wells Fargo. And Chris said, hey, could you come down and spend a day with another client of mine, Jamie Lovemark? So I'm like, yeah, sure. That sounds like fun. So I show up to Wells Fargo to see Trevor. Never saw Trevor. He was too busy working on his golf swing. Ended up seeing Jamie for a little while. And then Grant Way was teaching another player, Charles Howell III, who's like, I want you to spend some time with Charles because he really needs help with his putting too. So I actually met with Charles's caddy first, talked about a bunch of things, and then I got the go-ahead from the caddy to go and meet Charles. So I met Charles at that tournament, 2013 or 12 or whatever it was. And Charles became my first client just doing AimPoint stuff. Gotcha. So that I wasn't really teaching much stroke. It was much more about just screen reading. And we went back and forth. I might see him once every 2 or 3 months. So it really wasn't a full-time thing at all for quite a while. And then after a couple of years, as he saw some improvement, then he wanted to do some stroke stuff. And then I got contacted by a coach for Daniel Berger, and I saw him for a little while. And I kind of I can't keep track of how it all went from there, but 2 years ago, it just exploded. Like in 2017, I'd almost quit the golf business because Charles at that time had decided to go a different route with a different coach. And I had kind of burned up all the other avenues that I had. I had some players that I would see maybe once every quarter, but nothing I could make a job out of. And so I was just about to quit. And I'd had a college degree in finance and accounting, and I'd worked at a bank for a while, and I was good with numbers. I'm like, well, I could always go back and do that. And I got a call from Charles's current caddy to go work with Daniel Summerhays, which was in Canada. And at the same time, through another tweet, I've been keeping in touch with this guy named Joel Damon. Oh. And Joel was just about to lose his card. And he's like, hey, could you come up and take a look at my putting? I need to get ready for the playoffs because I'm definitely going to lose it at the end of this year. I need to get ready for the fall playoff series, try to get my card back. So I'm like, yeah, sure. So I go up to Canada. I see this Daniel Summerhays guy, and I meet Joel Damon. And I was telling Joel this actually the other day, is like, if it wasn't for Joel, I probably would have quit. I probably would have been out of the golf business.
Wow, that's wild.
So Joel and I worked for a little while, and then he got his card back that fall. And then all hell broke loose. The dam opened wide open. I got a call from Danny Willett, and I got a call from Graham McDowell. and then it just kind of went sideways from there. And now I'm doing quite well.
That's awesome. So would you accredit social media in essence a way of, I guess, you getting interacted with these, some of these high level players?
100%. There's no question that those guys are looking, and they're looking often and everywhere to try to get just a little bit better, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, whether it's whatever. They're always looking. So if you've got something good to say and you can say it well, somebody will find you eventually.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. I never heard that story about you almost giving up the game.
Yeah,
I never knew that. That's crazy.
Well, I'll give a little shout out to a couple of our buddies too at Griffo Co. They do some branding and stuff. They work with Joel also. I don't know if you met them or not.
I haven't met them. They've interacted with me a couple times on Instagram because I wear True shoes, and I know that they work with Joel with True.
Yeah.
But I've never. I think they're from Buffalo. Is that right? Or
no, they're from Rochester. Yeah,
okay.
They're from Pittsford. Brian Ford and Micah Griffo.
Okay, I haven't met them yet.
Yeah, good dudes. We'll definitely link up with them for sure. So do you want to give an active list of current players you're with, or?
Fine. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. So there's Danny Willett, there's Graham McDowell, there's Cameron Champ, Justin Thomas, Bud Cauley, Hank Lebioda, Joseph Bramlett, back with Charles again. I think that's it. So 8 or 9 or whatever it is. But there's a healthy chunk of that group that I only see either at home or maybe once every month or two. Only maybe half of those guys are real like full-time, want to see me very often.
Yeah. I mean, Justin Thomas, not a big deal. The guy knows what he's doing.
He's a good golfer.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some guys that are super long off the tee, so I'm imagining a little bit of short game work never hurts, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's especially when you hit it long and you hit it well, you get a lot of opportunities, and the difference maker is how many opportunities you get, and then how many opportunities you convert on. So they take care of that one half, and my job is to help them on the other half.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What's it been like with COVID working with them, and is it mostly travel wise? I'm sure is a little tough.
I've been quite blessed, to be honest. So during the break in March, April, May, obviously nobody did anything. Once the announcement came down that the tour was going to start up again at Colonial, I started traveling maybe a couple of weeks before that to go see players, to get them warmed up, to get them ready to go, to kind of check in, if you will. And at that time, the airlines were deserted, airports were empty, everything was nothing. And then the tour created its own tournament bubble. So once the tournament started, every event that I would go to, I would get tested, and I would have to stay like in some kind of bubble environment, whether it's a hotel or with a player or something like that. So traveling has been actually quite easy, quite doable. Only recently, as it started to get quite busy, I mainly flew Delta and Southwest because they were the only ones that weren't doing middle seats for most of the summer. United and American were filling the planes up, and I didn't want to deal with all that. Southwest just started filling in the middle seats. Delta's still empty until March, they said. So, I mean, I've traveled every week except maybe 3 since May.
Wow.
For some part, I shouldn't say that way. I've been to every event except 3 since then time, and I've never felt uncomfortable or sick or worried that I might get sick. I think if you do what they ask you to do, it's okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess take us to what's the interaction like? You stroll out onto the range, and then kind of you got your 8 guys, if they're all there. Who it's not. I'm not going to kind of say who takes precedence, but is it like, hey, John, can I get on your schedule at this time?
Yeah. So the general process is I try to set up plan as much as I can in advance in terms of who is going to be there. Very rarely are more than 5 of those guys there at any one event. So like half of those guys don't even play the same tour as one half. So like your Justins and your Willets, like your major champs are playing a different set of events than the rank and file guys that are playing the opposite events, so to speak. So rarely do I ever have 8 together at once. There are certain players that very clearly like more time, and then there's other ones that very clearly don't like as much time. So it's kind of just working through their personalities, what they like. I like to watch a lot of golf. I like to walk on the golf course. I stay for the tournament days as well, to see what really happens, not just what we do in practice. But I mean, I'm either on the putting green or on the golf course. I used to be slow enough where I could go on the range and just watch and listen. I've lost that opportunity that much anymore. So when someone leaves the putting green, goes to the range, I have somebody else ready to go. More often than not. And a lot of time, like we've got a very particular plan that we run through that we've been working on. It's an organic kind of practice plan, if you will. These are the things we check on. These are the things we prepare for. And then course specific, we'll do things to get ready for the course that we're playing that week. So that part of the plan is kind of variable. But I tell this very, very often, and it's hard for a lot of people to relate to, but the guys on tour are no different than the guys in the men's invitational or the club championship. They're just better. They're just as neurotic. They're just as scared. They're just as nervous. They're just as everything's got to be just right. It's really the same group of people, just shooting 5 to 10 shots better than the rest of us. It was a really eye opener for me because I expected it to be very, very crisp and clean and professional, and it's much messier than that.
That's hilarious, because that was one of the things I was going to ask you, is what's the difference of teaching at Webster's range and teaching these guys, and you hit it before we even got there.
Yeah. Let me tell you a great story on that topic. I won't say who it was, but so this last summer they had 2 events at Memorial, the Muirfield Village. So they had the work day and the Memorial back to back.
Yep.
And I'd shown up for the second one. I didn't go to the first one. And this one particular player that I was with was playing both of them. And we were walking on the golf course and we get to the 9th hole, and he's like, when I played here last week, I felt like the green book that I was using was wrong. The ball was breaking the opposite way than the green book said it should. When we get there, I'm like, okay, well, show me where your ball was, show me where the hole was, and let's see what's going on. And we test it out. And like, yeah, I think this green book is not oriented correctly. Don't use it for next week because it's not right. So the tournament comes along next week, and I'm out walking the golf course. And the first tee is kind of right above the 9th green there. And I'm happening to just kind of walk by, and I see this player on the 9th green. He's got like an 8-footer. So I'm like at the top of the hill, not sure that he can see me, but I'm just kind of watching to see what happens, because I know he's not happy with his green right now. He gets behind it, and he pulls out his green book. And he looks at it, and he goes and hits his putt, and he misses it. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? We just talked about not using it all week.
And he still used it.
And he still used it, and he missed it. So the next hole is right there. He hits up 10, makes like birdie on 10. So he's the first one done, and I'm standing up by the putting green, or by the green on 10. And he walks over on the cart path where I'm standing, and I'm like, hey, I was just watching on the other hole there. I thought we were not going to use the green book this week at that hole. He goes, oh man, I saw you up there. And I was like, oh shit, he's watching. I just pulled the book out. I better make this. I gotta make this. And I missed it. It's like, oh man, you caught me.
It's funny you say
like
that. I think
I've had that same story with like kids on the team at MCC. It's like, oh no, the coach is here watching.
Yeah. I think I saw you tweet something about that when you said you were walking the course, and you see when you walk up to a green and you see somebody 3-putt or something, you're like, like some GIF or something of like somebody shaking their head, and you're like,
yeah. And like, it was just shocking to see, first of all, to see him do it, and then to see like, oh, you saw me. It's like, oh, I felt so bad.
Right, and it's like, all right,
hilarious.
I got to get lost now if he's doing that.
Exactly right. Like you won the U.S. Open. You get nervous when I'm watching. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny.
That's classic.
That's great. So you've been doing quite a bit of traveling. What's thus far your favorite PGA Tour stop, and why?
Oh gosh.
So you know, I'm priming you for some of the bigger interviews. I know this is a big one, but I'm priming you for some of the things that I hear also on some of these other podcasts as well.
Well, the funny thing is usually the things that I think are important aren't things that most people probably would. So like being able to park close by, I think is important for me. Being able to get food that's good food is important to me. So usually the tournament at Memphis, the FedEx at Memphis, is usually the best combination of those things. They've got great barbecue, and the parking is right there.
The parking, I love it.
So I don't have to wait 20 minutes for a shuttle and then take a shuttle ride, and then like you can actually park right there and actually get to work. So in those regards, Memphis. As far as a facility, Muirfield Village year in and year out is the best.
Yeah,
it's in the best shape. It's the biggest. It's got the most stuff. It's impressive.
That's Jack's place, right?
Jack's place in Ohio. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
how's that range?
How are the milkshakes?
Milkshakes.
The milkshakes, they're legendary. They're good. Yeah. The range is a great shape, but it's actually not long enough anymore. The guys are hitting it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because they can hit both ways at that range, right?
No, it's not long enough for that. But
so it used to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So like Bryson had to sit, like he had to hit balls like at the very, very end and like aim in a certain direction. Cam Champ had the same problem. Like they were hitting it into the like concession stands. It's just not big enough anymore.
Well, even at the Masters, wasn't Bryson almost hitting the media center?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like 380 or something out there.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
That is wild. That's wild. Pretty cool though. I mean, some of those guys, Cameron Champ. I mean, I think I'm just as amazed with Cameron Champ. Like that guy, he can move it.
He can move it. He is a mobility freak. The things he can do to his body is impressive. Hopefully he stays healthy.
For sure. Let's see. We got a couple funny ones in here too. Scott came up. Have you been on a private jet yet?
I have.
You have.
I figured.
All right.
Yeah.
So travel isn't that bad. I get it now why it's not that bad. Don't have to worry about a middle seat on a private jet.
It's very rare, but it has happened a couple times.
Yeah.
That's
pretty sweet. What else do I got here? I got biggest podcast or golf interview you've been on besides this one.
I don't do a lot of things. I'm a pretty under the radar kind of guy. I mean, I've never been interviewed on anything TV wise. Probably the biggest viewers or listenership would be Mark Immelman's podcast. I don't even know what it's called anymore. It's a PGA Tour one. I forget what it's called, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're definitely becoming more prevalent as I see you. I think I messaged you on Instagram when I said I saw you right behind John Rahm on the range at the Masters. So, I mean, it's coming about. Even locally here, guys that I play with and stuff are like, dude, you see John Graham was mentioned in the article on golf.com and stuff, working with JT. I think some of those things could definitely be coming about, and it's awesome. It's cool to see for us.
Yeah, there's no question the JT thing is a different level of scrutiny and stuff that I've never dealt with before.
Well, geez, I didn't even know you were working with JT until they mentioned it on TV, and then I text you and you're like, yeah, I'm working with JT. I'm like, cool. Well, that would have been nice to know.
Yeah, I know. I like I said,
you were way under the radar. I don't think anyone really knew.
No, nobody knew.
What are the nicknames? What does everybody call it? They call you JG. What's
mostly just JG. Yeah.
JG.
Yeah.
What about with the players?
Yeah, same.
No, what are you calling them? You got
I
nicknames?
don't have any nicknames for anybody. No.
Nobody?
No, I'm not that guy.
Let's see. So you guys talked a little bit about difference between teaching tour pros and AMs. We want to give some of the amateurs, because that's most of our user base are amateur players and stuff, and Scott came up with this one. You know, if somebody had an hour to practice, you know, where should they allocate their time? What would you recommend?
Well, I would. It's not fun, but I'd recommend the area that they're the weakest at. I don't necessarily think that, you know, people don't practice their putting enough or their chipping enough or whatever the case may be. I mean, all the math suggests that if you drive it better and hit your irons better, you score lower sooner than if you putt it better or chip better. Now, if those things are just horrible, well, then you can get a faster gain doing it short game wise. But generally speaking, fewer penalties, hitting it closer is where it's at. So whatever they're not as good at.
Did you say the math suggests that iron play is mathematically better than putting?
Yep.
Wow. That's surprising to me.
In fact, it's the number one correlation to score is how well you hit your irons.
Is that because of proximity to hole? Is that where they came up with that math?
Exactly.
All right.
Right. And
I mean, that makes sense. I get it.
Like the difference between a good putter and a bad putter is closer than the difference between a good iron player and a bad iron player.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when you look at 20-something handicap greens in regulation versus a 5 handicap, I understand that. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Now, if
Yeah,
they're putting, then that changes everything. But,
well, of course, yeah. I thought you were saying the whole hour should be putting.
No, that's
So you did mention though, so it's technically short game, right? So it's not just putting. Is it also chipping stuff around the greens?
Yeah, actually, around the green is second, and then driving is third, and then putting is fourth in terms of strongest correlation to score.
That does make some sense.
Yeah, I know it's all data stuff now in regards to strokes gained, and that's kind of the biggest thing. I follow this datagolf.com. I follow a lot of that stuff, and when I'm trying to pick my lineups for FanDuel, I might be going direct to you now instead. who I should be going with?
Well, I mean, there's certainly a case to be made that, you know, the regular 20 handicapper is never going to hit it 280 or 300 or whatever more, and like the actual gains can be made short game wise. Like the only gains you can make with driver is to hit it farther. Like hitting it straight, it doesn't really gain you that much, but hitting it farther gains you a lot.
Oh yeah.
And people just can't do that. So they do what they can do, which is short game and putting, because it's physically they're capable of doing it.
With your tour guys, I know you obviously do a ton of putting. I know at one point you were doing wedges and stuff with some of the guys. I mean, what is the makeup of that? I mean, how far out are you going, and how's that go?
Yeah, I still work a little bit with Charles on his wedge play. I'd say it's probably 20 yards and in.
Oh, okay.
Mostly
so
just
nothing really full swing at all.
Nothing at all. Nope. It's all pitching, bunker play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your game like? Are we able to get out and play, or is it are you mostly just focusing on the players, and what do you enjoy about the game?
I enjoy the work part of it. So like I honestly I don't know the last time I played 18 holes of golf.
Yeah.
I've played some 9 holes a couple times in the last few years. But I'm at a point where I travel enough now that when I'm home, I've got 4 kids, I'm gonna be home. So I hit a shot a couple weeks ago for the first time in a long time at Sawgrass, hit it in the water.
I think I saw the video. I didn't.
Yeah. What's that, Scott?
Do you have a 7-iron?
No, I still don't.
See, I told you.
Scott said that. He was like, I gotta ask him.
I've got 3 sets of irons and no 7-irons.
I think I had noted here, ask how many 7-irons you lost.
Yeah, I've lost 3.
Too bad the demo irons were always the 6 irons. We always looked.
I'm just not smart enough. I learned that.
Right. That's funny.
I enjoy it now when I play because I don't expect anything. And I would say my good shots are as good as they always were, but my bad shots are significantly worse.
Yeah.
I just don't practice or play.
Yeah.
What type of putter are you using, and do you think there's any advantage to a certain style of putter over another?
the putter I've been using is an Axis putter. The company's called Axis. It's generally a very good putter for people who tend to hit a push in a particular way, which I do. There's no question that putter styles do affect things. I don't necessarily think there's one better than another for everyone. In general, most people hit a push. So because of that, anything face balance or something like that will generally be better.
Which is more of a mallet style, correct?
Type style is generally going to be better. It's a pretty broad statement, but
I feel like I see more guys using a mallet style. That was my part of my reasoning behind it. I know the blade like Tiger is sexy, but even he had one in the mix for a little bit there.
Yeah, it's generally speaking, the guys who still like blades really like to close it. And they kind of have to, because it's going to tend to want to stay open a lot more.
When you say the data shows more people are pushing than anything, does that come from people pulling it inside to start, or where does that data come from?
I think most people open the face way too much in the backswing. And then because the amount of time the backswing takes is less than the amount of time the downswing takes to the ball is less than the length of time for the backswing, they have less time to actually close it again.
Square it up.
Right.
Yeah.
So they end up hitting a push.
So it's not path, it's basically
usually face, yeah.
Yeah.
Usually open the face way too much.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How many tickets do you got to the Masters this year? And what do we have to do to potentially be those two guys?
Well, I already have one, so
I have no tickets. I mean, I can go because I'm a PGA member. In fact, so this was my second year there. Last year was my first year. I could only get in because of my PGA status. None of the players could get me a ticket. Tickets are that hard to get. Yeah. I was coaching 3 people. I couldn't get a ticket from either one of them.
Yeah, I mean, your PGA status, I mean, I couldn't go this year.
Oh, this year.
Yeah, right. Because they didn't let anybody in. You were like the only PGA status that really was allowed in this year. They did just say that they're allowing some fans for next year. I wonder what PGA is going to be with that.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Because I've heard it both ways. I should say it another way. They definitely don't want to do it without fans again. That really didn't like that. So if they can't have fans, they would consider moving
patrons.
To get fans.
Patrons.
Patrons, thank you.
Oh, that's right, Augusta's patrons.
Sorry. Hey.
So are you? Because they just announced they're going to allow some fans, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I'm sure those are going to be pretty premium.
So as a viewer, was it weird looking at Augusta National without people around it and seeing what the golf course really looked like?
Oh, very strange. And I was there when Sergio won, so I know actually the ground somewhat, and it looked so different.
Yeah, I'm just one of the peons that they just deny every single year. So I haven't quite been able to make it there myself yet, but I have a feeling it's coming soon. The lottery, they gotta pick me at some point.
Exactly.
Cool. I mean, Scott, you got anything else on the list?
No, I think with everything that we had came up with, I think we touched on a lot, and actually a little bit more than actually I thought we were going to touch on. So I think it was awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure. John, where can we find you on social media? You know, what's your outlets that you prefer?
So I still use Twitter quite a bit, and Instagram would be the 2 main ones that I use, and you can find me both on those at John Graham Golf. I haven't posted a YouTube video in a long time, but I'm there with old stuff with the same handle. Facebook I don't use hardly at all. And I'm not young enough to use Snapchat or anything new that
I thought for sure you'd have a TikTok channel.
No TikTok channel. No
TikTok?
No.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, cool. I got everything, and you know, we'll kind of go about from here, and yeah, we appreciate the time, man. You're a busy guy. Where's the next stop? Where are you heading to?
So Monday I leave for Palm Springs, and then I've got 3 weeks in a row. I'll do Palm Springs, Torrey Pines, San Diego, and then Phoenix.
John, last question. What was the car that we drove to that Pro-Am in back in the day? Your original car, I'm trying to think of what it was. It was a boat. I remember that.
It was a Lincoln.
Continental?
Yeah, a big 4-door blue one. It was huge.
I just remember being in the front seat and we were late, and you telling Greg and Dom that they couldn't tell their parents how fast we were driving.
Exactly right. So I'd gotten the directions from Debbie, and she's like, "Yeah, I think it's like an hour away." And we were driving from Rochester down to Bartlett Country Club, which is nowhere close to an hour away. We're going well over 100.
Oh yeah. Yep.
What used to be the Southern Tier Parkway or 17 or whatever it is now, 86.
A little trip down memory lane. I actually forgot like completely about that until you mentioned it. That's so funny.
Yeah, we barely made it. It was not good. I was freaking out.
But you made it.
Made it.
We made it. We played. It was fun.
Made it. We made it.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah. I think that's it. We, like I said, we appreciate the time and we'll go through and probably piece a bunch and make some clips and put some stuff on social. And,
that's great.
Yeah, that was cool, man. Well, it was great to meet you. Hopefully
I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Hopefully I'll get to meet you soon and we'll talk some golf.
All right. Sounds good. Anytime.
All right, Johnny boy. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Good.
See you guys.